But growing up was a challenge. I seen a lot of crazy, wild stuff going on. Lots of fights, arguments, you know, just DV. There was a lot of DV in our family. It was insane. And growing up seeing this stuff, I'm glad I grew up the way I did, even though it caused a lot of BS and lots of trauma. Part of me is really glad I was brought up the way I was, because I have more of an appreciation for life, more of appreciation for people, and I have so much more of an open mind now than I ever have before as an adult. They say as you grow older, you get wiser and smarter and more intellectual. And maybe that's not always the case for everybody, because mental health is this big thing that's going on. This big epidemic that things people are going through and being affected from and of, and it's crazy. It's so freaking crazy because so many people's mental health and emotional stability and just, or not stability. Well, yeah, actually, it's just everybody's being affected. Everybody wants to sit there and they want to be ruthless and they want to be mean and rude and just, why? Why are you projecting onto other people? Like, that's my thing. And I'm not saying I haven't done it in the past. I have projected in the past. I'm not perfect. I'm not better than another person. I don't have it all figured out. I'm still figuring it out as I go. I'm still coping and processing things as I go. I remember for a memory recount, recollect, however, whatever. I remember, I think I was 9. We lived on Mango Tree still. And my ages might be a little bit off because that does get a little bit confusing. And just to clear that up. But everybody was drinking, of course. It was a Friday, I know that part. And everybody was partying and going wild and wilding out and just, whatever. Everything seemed like it was going okay, It was a fairly normal, party night, I guess. Not what usually goes down, as normal compared to all the other nights when my mom was working. Not sure if she was working at the nursing home in New Smyrna or she was at a client's with in-home care. But Vernon thought it would be a really good idea. He's like, you want to learn how to drive? And I'm 9 years old. I'm like, hell yeah, I want to learn how to drive. Well, of course, I didn't say hell yeah, but you get it. And so my mom had this little tiny white 94 Honda Civic. And I believe it was a 2-door. And I sat on like 3 or 4 books and could barely touch the pedal. But over across in the neighbor's house, they had, I don't know what it's for. They had the pole. It was just like a metal PVC pole that was sticking out of the ground. And I kind of floored it and it kind of like jumped and I hit the bitch. I hit the pole. And then he's like, all right, all right, all right. He goes, that's enough for you. He goes, no more for you. He goes, oh my God, your mom is going to be so mad. I'm like, my mom is going to be mad you let me fucking drive her car in the first place. Like, what? So that was a whole ass thing. I mean, me and him, I mean, there was a couple good things like that, trying to teach me how to drive. And, I just hit the big pole that's coming out of the ground. And he's like, oh, that's enough for you. No more. I don't really have a lot of quality memories with Vernon. Now, he was always doing his thing and doing his substances and whatever he did, or was doing or whatever, his days looked like. There was no really quality time or quality anything with him, or no closeness or no nothing. He felt that way with me, but I wasn't feeling the vibes. He would always make broken promises. Like, one of the ones I had a problem with was he'd be like, oh, when you graduate high school, I'll buy you your first car. But, like, I dropped out due to bullying, like mass bullying in the second semester of 11th grade. And then he's like, well, you didn't graduate. I didn't graduate. It wasn't my choice I didn't graduate. I dropped out because of really bad bullying, and my mindset was in a very dark place. Like, I was having, thoughts and stuff, which I am not and haven't been. Like, I know what I said in the past, in the beginning, but I was 16. The whole slit in the wrist and waking up and the bathroom door was open and people are walking by and, like, there was no concerns or no flags risen or nothing. And then I just came to and cleaned myself up. Like, that's how it always was. They'd be like, oh, God, she's being a drama queen again. Oh, God, she's looking for attention again. And I really wasn't. I was lashing out, but, I wanted to see if there would be concerns or worries or, fear, oh my God, she got, any concern or anything. And there was nothing. It was always a complete void. My brother Bobby, a lot of people know him basically because the fact his band, Inch by Inch, yeah, Bobby Jean's band, Inch by Inch, I still have his CD somewhere because he gave me a CD before he passed away a few years after that due to D-overdose. And my sister found him, laying in his bed, and I couldn't imagine. That's why I said she's seen and experienced so many things. It's freaking wild. And then my brother Joe, there was an incident where we lived behind Reasons Bank in Edgewater on the second floor. That's the place where I got jumped by Sean and 3 of his buddies. Yeah. And I was home one night and Joe was home. He wasn't working this night and he was like smashed. And I don't know, he had said something like, he was always been like a pervert. And I'll tell you a couple of incidences, like incidences, I guess. And this night, I'm standing on the porch, and I'm like 16, of course, a lot happened like within the 16 year, but if I remember, I'll get through it. But this time, he's like, oh, KK. He's like, you're developing so well. And I'm like, that is so inappropriate. You're my big brother. You're not supposed to be looking at me like that. You're not supposed to be commenting about me like that, or to me like that. And like, he was smashed. And then he was like one of those brothers, grab your boob and squeeze it and go, "Oh, look at that. Somebody's developing." And I slapped him across the face. I didn't think about it when I did it, but I did it. And then he grabbed me by the throat and he slid me up the siding wall, up against the wall by our apartment, and held me by my throat. And his grip kept squeezing. He said, "You're lucky you're my little sister, because if you were any other bitch, I would have handed you your ass." And his grip was pretty tight. Like, there was handprints around my neck when I looked in the mirror. And I'm just like, what? You know, of course, I'm not going to think to take pictures and document anything, because my family were carpet sweepers and they didn't give me the tools of survival. So I didn't know about these things that I could do. And then another situation when I got with my husband, when I was with him, you know, it was like the first year. And Joe used to work at Manny's Pizza on the beachside in New Smyrna, and he would always get us free pizza, or he'd give us free things of chicken, and it was really awesome because we were in a time where sometimes we were trying to figure out how we were going to eat that night or whatever. So that was really convenient that he would be able to help us out with that. And we showed gratitude, you know, we showed appreciation for it. You know, we're not selfish people or self-centered people. But, you know, that. But anyways, the point is like, Frank had this Winnebago SUV, the red one with the stripe, the lightning bolt stripe down the side of it. And Winnebago had contacted him, and they were like, "Oh, we'll pay you $10,000 for it if you send it to us." And he was like, he was gonna do it, and he was thinking about it, but he was like, nah. And he turned around and sold it for like a couple grand. Like, what? You know, you could have really, you know, set yourself up for a little while. But it was like, whatever, you know. But anyways, on this time, we had given him a ride to work or something. He had to go to the store. It was something. I don't even remember, but he was in the back of the back seat of the Winnebago. That was the purpose of mentioning the Winnebago SUV, because those who knows the seating setup. So yeah, and he was like right behind my seat. And Frank was standing next to the truck with the door open. He was on the phone. And my brother was doing that perv shit again, and reaches around the back of the seat and grabs my boob. And says, okay, you're developing so nicely. And Frank kind of slid the phone down past his mouth and says, "If you fucking touch her again, we're going to have problems. You're her fucking brother. You have no business putting your hands on her. Don't do it again." And he didn't say nothing. He didn't, you know. And he did that a couple of times. And, you know, one time he's like, "Joe, I'm not fucking playing with you, dude. Stop being a pig. That's your little sister. Have some fucking respect." So he put him in his damn place many, many times. But it's just insane. You know, my mom, Sally, had went through so much torment with this family. It's insane. You know, I know what I said about her and stuff like that, but it's not, you know, part of it's not her fault. A big part of it's not her fault. She didn't ask to be treated like that or raised like that when she was a child, and it fell out all the way through her adulthood, and, you know, she was R&R'd, but, you know, it's not her fault these things happened to her. It's just, oh, it is so, wow. But, trying to think. You know, they would steal her medications. And they would say, like, when she went back to Maine, they would say that, we brought her food, we bought her Thanksgiving dinners, we did this, we did that, you know, holidays. She spent the holidays by herself. She was frail. She could barely even get up on her own. She could barely even feed herself. And she went up there thinking that she was going to get the moral support of her family because she wanted to go back home to Maine where her family was. And it was a total catch-22. Totally was not what she thought it would be. And, she's left very many voicemails on my phone. Oh, KK, putting all the pressure on. Oh, I need you and Frank come get me. And, oh, they're trying to me and all this stuff. And it's like I'm in Florida. I have absolutely no means of traveling. Like financially in the drought. Can barely pay our bills. And you're going to put that kind of pressure and weight on my shoulders. And I get the point that she wanted to see me before she passed away. That I'll never live down. Because I don't know if I had mentioned it in the biography or not, but I know that Joe was the one sitting in there with her the whole time. And John's pacing back and forth, and they're saying they want to do an autopsy, and he's flipping a shit, and, oh, I will do this, and I'll sue, and I'm her POA, and, oh, she's gonna know how, like, what is your problem? Why are you so worried? They gonna find something in her system that you did to her? Are they gonna find something out that you're trying to hide? Like there was, oh my gosh. But she was like telling everybody she had a trach put in her neck, in her throat, as she couldn't breathe on her own. And she says, I want to wait. I'm not ready. I want to see KK before I pass. I want to see my baby girl. And I wasn't able. I wish I would have asked Joe to put the phone next to her ear so I could have said something. But obviously I'm fucking too dumb to even think of some shit like that. And I was like in the minute, in the moment, in the raw, going through my emotions. And he told her when I was on the phone, of course she couldn't talk. He said KK can't make it. She has no way to get here. And, like, I know I've said stuff about Sally, but in a big way, she was like my best friend. And, I could get past the things that she did to me because I know that she had been through. I know, like, that she knew I would never understand. She knew I would never understand if she tried to explain it to me. But it was freaking crazy. So she had a tear. He said she's got a tear running down her face, and she started to cry. And she pointed at the machine and said, unplug me. Like, basically. Just pointed at the machine. And she was crying, and I feel like a terrible person. And that will always weigh on my heart. Because, all those years and not being able to see her. And she wanted me to go home with her. But, I'm like, I'm not going to leave my man. This is like the best relationship I've ever been in. I'm not, and I can't give that up. And I didn't want to go to Maine because of the old Patrick thing. That really scares me. And then he actually had got I had found out, like, I was like, he's gonna get his karma. I had actually found out that he had got a charge, and for messing around and, with a 13-year-old minor, or I think she was 13, it might have been like 8, 9, somewhere in there, but between 8 to 13, and he was in his 30s, and he was like my stepbrother or something, which, stepbrother, not stepbrother, and I tried to be supportive, and I tried to be there for him, but he wanted something I didn't want to give. He wanted a whole ass relationship, and I'm into you, I'm feeling you, and it's just, no, definitely not. And people later down the road tried to twist the story, and they tried to twist the narrative, and they tried saying, oh, you were talking to... No, I wasn't. No, I was not. I would give him inspiration. I would try to give him hope and encouragement and stuff like that. But I never fed into his bullshit. Definitely not. But the fact that I knew about the voicemails and stuff that she had sent, and I can't even get these messages back. Like, the phone companies and stuff. I've had so many damn phones since then. It's insane. But it just proves that, like, on situations like that, you get voicemails and stuff like that. You want to record them. You want to keep them in your files. Because you never know, one day they may come in handy, and you may need them. You may need that proof to validate your claims or your story. And it's insane. Oh, Lord. And, let me think. But yeah, my brother Bobby Jean, he had a band, Inch by Inch. He would play at bars and stuff. But when he got into his de-addiction really bad, he sold, oh God, the collection of guitars and electric guitars and just the amps. Sold them all for dollars on the dollar. Just to get a fix. And then I started to see the repetitions of the outcomes of drugs and how it affects your mind and your mental state. And if you're really deep in, you'll like sell your stuff just to get a fix. And it's just like, that is no way of living. That is no way to be at all. It's insane. I could not fathom, like, I could not understand what I was seeing and experiencing growing up, because it was so dark. It was just like, how is this real? Like, how is this, like, real? There is no way that this stuff is really happening. And it was. And it makes you question, like, are these good people, or do they have, like, hidden agendas that we don't know about? And material motives we don't know about. It was so confusing. So confusing growing up. And part of my gifts, when I actually realized, started to grasp the fact that I had them. I don't know if I mentioned this, but my mom had turned my room into a storage unit, and there was all boxes. I need your room for storage for my boxes. And it's like, what? You're totally disregarding your daughter having room just for your selfishness of, oh, I need to store my boxes, so you need to sleep on a couch. Well, we were sleeping on the couch. It was couches. There were two across from each other. I got the hiccups. And I guess she had taken her meds and drank beer on top of it and passed out, and we'd went to bed or whatever. And I had woke up like in the middle of a dead ass sleep, and I'm 9. And I just sat straight up, like just automatic, like just, eyes closed, and I automatically looked to the left over to my mom. And anyways, I called the cops and stuff. My brother John had taken her to the hospital, and the doctor told me if you would have waited 5 more minutes, she would have been gone. She wouldn't be with us. And he told me, he said, you're a very special little girl. He said, you may not understand that now, but you'll understand that when you get older. He said, you're a very special little girl. I don't know how you knew to do what you did out of a dead ass sleep. But all power to you. And it took me back for a hot minute, and I really had to process that for a while. Because I was like, how did I do that? How did that happen? And it was just weird stuff all the time. Like, I would touch somebody and I'd get static electricity and I'd get zapped. Or I would touch an object and I'd get static electricity and I would get zapped. It was just freaking crazy. Freaking crazy. But, that's what I recollect right now. So far, I'm trying to rack my brain to get any information I possibly can throughout my journey, and put it in my autobiography, because I'm hoping that me telling my story will help me heal, hoping that it will help release a lot of pressure and weight held on my shoulders for so many years and lingering over me for so many years. And I've heard people say that they post their autobiography and it was like a sense of release that they never realized they would have gotten if they didn't. So I'm kind of hoping for that. And until next time, until next video, thank you for tuning in. And I appreciate everybody. I truly do. Always have, always will.